Instagram universe. It's been a minute. How are you? Brain on, popcorn ready. Let's do this. I'm super excited for tonight. Jessica Heller, my boy Johnny Elsasser is in the house already.
Alex, Cyprian.
What's up?
There he is. Yes.
Man, I'm so excited. I love this, man. I love talking to you. You just get me fired up.
Same way about you, buddy. I love you. How are you?
Good, brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm super excited for tonight. Everything's going great. Launched the podcast a couple of weeks back, some record downloads. Everything's great. And I get to see you not once, but twice in the last couple of weeks. What could be better than that?
I know, man. It's like my brother from another mother over here.
Yes. So let me introduce you to my audience who may not be familiar, Johnny.
Yeah, brother.
So this is my buddy, Johnny Elsasser. He's a former special ops, did 4 tours, combat tours, Iraq, Afghanistan. Now he's a coach. He's a host of an unbelievable podcast. He's a juggernaut in all facets of life. He's on fire. He's my good friend, and we're going to talk all things mindset and finding our purpose and just making the most of life and making every second count tonight. How you doing, my man?
Good, brother. This is it's so much fun. I love doing like IG lives, but to get them to do with somebody that you have such a good connection with, it makes it even so much better. So
100%. Yeah, where are you right now?
DC, man, just outside DC in Arlington. So this is like our apartment. It's like a high rise out here.
Nice.
So yeah, bro. What, do you think I was close by? You look like New York behind me.
You don't want to be here. It's brisk out over here.
Yeah, I know, brother. I bet, man. It's cold down here, and you guys are probably quite a bit colder than us.
Yeah. So let's dive right in, my man.
Yeah, brother. I love it. Let's do it. What do you got?
So, Johnny, one of the things that I love about you, and I also want to help the audience understand, is after you came back from service and all that, you were not your best self. You weren't the best version. You weren't Johnny 2.0, so to speak. And obviously there was a gap in between that point to where you are now, fulfilling your purpose and helping people, all over the place, which is unbelievable. How did you get to that point where you kind of left that lowered state to fulfill and find what you're doing now? Like, what was the mindset like for that?
Yeah, brother, it's such a good question because, everybody has their own low points. Like everybody has their own rock bottom, right? And I came from a high level of integrity with myself and honesty. And I came from a high level of elite, aspects of leadership. And I found myself not living those standards. So when I came back, man, I was just I was downtrodden. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have a sense of who I was. I didn't have a connection with anything. And so my mindset was basically like, who the fuck am I? And what the hell am I doing, man? Like this, it makes no sense. Like if I have no purpose, if I have nothing that's going on, like how am I even showing up every day? Because I don't have anything to tie into. So I was just like, crushed, man. I was like, I don't know who I am. I'm no longer defending our flag. I'm no longer defending the people of this nation. So my purpose was gone. There wasn't anything bigger than me, and I had to go and find that. So when my mindset was down in the dumps, my mindset was completely just lost, really lost as a man, lost as a human, lost as just a general person, man. There wasn't anything there. I didn't wake up every morning having that, fight that you got in you, that freaking life that you're showing right now standing on the screen, man. Like I didn't have that, and I wanted to have that. I wanted to have that back. So that's really what that mindset was, brother.
First of all, thank you for being so vulnerable and telling the audience and being so real, raw, and authentic what your story is. I appreciate that. So when you were at that point, and I can relate to it, Johnny, maybe not to the exact extent, but my last business, I was unfulfilled. I didn't love who I was seeing in the mirror, and I wasn't waking up passionate, for lack of better words. And that was like my rock bottom, where I felt like I wasn't fulfilling my purpose, or I wasn't making the most out of this blessing that is life. So for you, like, how did you segue into what you're doing now? Like, when did it click? How were you able to identify that this is the path for you?
Well, you actually hit the moment on the head. It's when you realize you're looking back and you don't know who you're seeing in the mirror, and you're like, who is this guy, right? So it was, okay, that was the moment when I was, I wound up in a divorce. I wound up just drinking every weekend. I wound up like having shit relationships with friends and bad relationships with just people in my life. I wasn't looking forward to anything. I was just looking for getting by. And I realized that's not who I am, and that's not the man that I want to be. So that's when I just shifted. I was like, I need to make a change. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I was like, I need to start making a change, and I need to find some tangible ways to make changes. If that means that, what I started with was one of the things I've always loved is working out. So I actually got on a bodybuilding team and started working for doing a show. And I was like, this gives me some direction right now to pull me
Momentum.
out. Yeah. Gives me that mental pull out, that assistance to say, okay, man, let's give you just a little purpose for a little bit. Let's give you a purpose, right? So that started to bring me out of that mindset. And then I started to say, okay, there's got to be something else. I'm really liking this feeling. I'm liking to have this purpose again. I'm liking to have this passion. What else is there? And that's when I started to dive into, okay, if I was struggling this much from transitioning from the life that I was in, similar to what you did, struggling from coming out from Wall Street, having your business being unfulfilled and stuff like that, if I'm struggling and we're struggling similarly, and us men being these high octane men, we're not just going to listen to anybody. We got to respect the people we're listening to. Well, maybe I can start to learn something to start helping men to lower their walls that are having a hard time transitioning. Let them know they're not alone, and let them know that there is a way out and you can do it. And if you just take a few steps every day, a little bit of progress every day, start picking up a book or listen to a podcast or find a small purpose, it'll help you to get that mindset shifted.
100%. And it's like you said, momentum, like even small steps or small wins, like that you start to accelerate. And I love that you said that.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Where did you come up with the name and the theme for the Art of Masculinity? Because I love that.
Well, I think in all the research that I've done now over the years for masculinity and how it poses itself within society and in all kinds of cultures, it really is an art. Masculinity becomes this beautiful canvas, this picture that we get to paint as men, how we choose to show up in this world. There's no right or wrong way as a man. What it is showing up as an authentic man. And I think you said this on the podcast, and that's what I love about you is you hit the nail on the head, man. It's being authentic with those things in your life that you are passionate about and purposeful with. And those are the things that we as men need to show up as, because being a positive male figure in this world is so important, so that the younger generation see that and the feminine side sees that there is this positive version of masculinity. That's where a healthy society exists. So yeah, man, it's all about trying to sit there and find out, okay, how do I paint this picture? What's inside of me that I love about being a man and showing up as a great man every day?
Yeah, I love that. Look, you're on fire tonight, by the way. You're always on fire, but I'm feeling it tonight. I love this. And I love that you spoke about feminine and masculine, because some people might not necessarily understand what we mean by that. When you talk about the two different energies, like, can a guy have feminine energy?
Oh, 100%, brother. And we have to learn how to balance these out. One of the best things I've ever learned in my relationship with my wife is the fact that if I can sit here and balance the feminine energy that I have when she's sitting in her masculine, that's how we have a great relationship, and vice versa. She's got to make sure because in everything that we do, there's polarity of male and female. They're masculine and feminine. There always is polarity. Where a lot of issues happen and contention happens is when it's too female or feminine or too masculine coming together, right? That's where we find a lot of dissension. But when we have polarity between the two, whether it's sex, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's conversations, whether it's work, that polarity creates cohesive opportunities for us to be a great and strategic and powerful team.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that one of the keys to being able to portray these different types of energies is to be vulnerable, to be you and be authentic. And a lot of people walk around life like not being their true authentic self. And let me be clear, I was guilty of this for quite some time. And when I started CLS, now for me personally, I've never felt more alive. And I know this is like a trendy word, but I've never felt more aligned. Like everything just feels right. And when you're in that state, then you have the opportunity with confidence to be feminine, masculine, or so forth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even for everybody listening, for a conversation like this to be a great conversation, we have to continually balance, because the feminine is in the receiving mode. The feminine is in listening, and people don't realize that that's actually part of that feminine energy. So if we're not balancing that, even you and I right now, this conversation goes to shit, right? Like, we can't keep talking over each other. We have to balance between the two.
100%. I love that you said that. And one thing that we also discussed on the podcast, and I won't give too much away, is when it comes to feminine and masculinity, we're talking about like with the journaling, right? Like, a lot of people think that journaling is a feminine thing. And I personally couldn't disagree more. I'm like probably the biggest journal there is. I have about 7 of them on my dining room table, each for a different topic. But a lot of people, a lot of guys, and you probably see this all the time, like, they don't know how to journal, or they'll say like, where do I start? Like, what would you suggest to someone that should get into journaling, but they don't even know where to begin?
Well, first off, I tell them to go follow you, Craig, because you are a journal, man. I love that you are, because I was totally in the mindset, and you and I know that you know this, but I was totally in the mindset that that's feminine. What kind of guy journals, right? I had that mindset for the longest time. But for me, what helped me break the ice was I did what I call like a psycho journal, right? And I basically just write for 3 pages. And this is how I started. I wouldn't write at one time 3 pages. I'd write like 1 page, maybe half a page, and I'd let it get to 3 pages. I'd rip it out and either burn it or shred it up and toss it in the trash, right? Because most men that have that mindset of blocking themselves from wanting to write has nothing to do with it being feminine, has everything to do with us being fearful of putting out our innermost thoughts. So
love that.
It was to rip it up or burn it, so I felt safe, but I got those thoughts out of me, right? Like, that was the trigger. And all of a sudden I felt like you probably feel every day, but I felt like this relief, man. And you can talk to that too. Like, how much relief, how cathartic is it for you to do that?
Yeah. First of all, it makes me feel light and free every single time. It's productive for so many reasons. Because number one, like, you're putting your creativity and inspiration down on paper, but also, just like you mentioned, like, for the audience watching, this is so valuable. Sometimes you have to take a load off, so to speak. And like this, like, journaling can be an outlet that also leads to breakthroughs, because there it is on paper. So I love that you said that. It's so true. It's a way to just express yourself and get it out there too. Love that.
Yeah, it gets the thought and energy out to the universe, even though it's on paper. And regardless, this isn't a conversation on religion, but in any form, getting that out of your body, it's energy. Getting those thoughts out, it also clears you up for creativity. People don't realize this. When you're like, my brain, and I know you do too, because I know how much energy you have. I know your brain's always going. You're thinking of a million different things, right?
Is it that obvious?
I've only known you for a little bit of time, Craig, but I know that you're freaking on fire all the time. But a lot of times,
thank you, buddy,
is when that brain's churning, you have all these great thoughts. And if you don't get stuff out, you're going to forget what those are, right? So
100%.
It's so helpful to get that stuff out and then get creative on other things. All of a sudden, your mind expands because you don't have to remember this stuff because it's down on paper.
100%. No, you're absolutely right. And for the audience listening, if you take one thing from this, get a journal, get several journals, just start writing stuff down, jotting anything. There's no right or wrong way to journal. You just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could thank us later. Johnny, what is the Wild Man experience?
Oh, brother, I love it. I can't wait till you're a part of it. That's the one thing. It's going to be a blast to have you there. So the Wild Man experience is something that I put together. As you're very aware, obviously, having done work on yourself, as us men, it's hard for us to find a good tribe of guys. It's hard for us to find a good tribe of men that want to talk about real things. So I created the Wild Man experience that creates an environment of helping men lower their walls, build a tribe, have real conversations, wrapped up with VIP treatment, and then they get to do a lot of masculine, former special operations things that I used to do. So we do shoot guns. We shoot guns out of moving cars. We shoot them out of helicopters. I teach guys a little bit of some spec ops tactics from the military. But we're all while we're having this great bonding time and having deep conversations at the meals. We have a bro hangout time where we're hatchet throwing, having cigars, and just talking about the real things in life, what we're struggling with, what our accomplishments are, what are our goals, who are we really, what is it, who do we want to show up as in the future? So it's real, man, it's raw, but it gives us the ability to tap into our feminine while we're embracing our masculine. That's what I love about it.
I love that, and that was so beautifully said and so beautifully put. Johnny, let me ask you, for the audience, a lot of people always ask me this, and of course I have my perspective, but I'd love to hear yours. How do you prevent a burnout?
Man, this is a great question because I think in today's world, with our attention span so small, it's so much easier to get basically the shiny object kind of mentality of like, I want everything. And then you get burned out because you're trying to do so much. So for me, it becomes the ability to prioritize and compartmentalize, right? Like you need to take a look at what it is that is really important to your purpose and your passion, right? Like you need to focus on those pieces because science tells us factually that we are not good multitaskers, regardless of what we want to believe. And if we continue to try to multitask, burnout happens like that, right? So what we need to do is find that purpose and passion of whatever it is in that day. I'm not even talking about, esoterically in our lives. I'm talking about just in that day and say, what is my intention for today? And what is my goal, right? And if you can set an intention and a goal, it helps you to compartmentalize and prioritize so you're not burning out. You're not just burning the midnight oil. It gives you the ability to accomplish and find a piece that you can hit that day. I want to actually hear your aspect on this because I know that you've had a lot of times in life that you were either potentially burned out or getting right against it.
Yeah, and it's such a great question. And the truth of the matter is even when you think you can't get burnt out, like even if you're doing what you absolutely love to do, which is your purpose or your passion, you can still burn out if you're going 100 miles an hour and you don't rest your mind a little bit. And, the truth of the matter is you have to, as I said earlier, take a load off. You have to do a little bit of a reset. Like, so for me, like I recently picked up running and I ran the marathons, and just to be able to like beat the shit out of myself on that type of outlet for me is a little bit of a reset, because when it's me, God, and the pavement, that's all that matters. And like, I don't have to think about all the other stuff. And so that's one way that I like to prevent a burnout. Also, like, you can't work yourself to the bone. I don't mean physically, again, because guys like you and I, like, we're obviously in good shape, but the mental aspect, you have to, at nighttime, like you have to set a bound. I know this is another trendy word, right? In 2021, setting boundaries and so forth.
Yeah.
And let me just be clear to the audience, I haven't mastered this. Life is a journey. I'm still working on it, but I noticed, like, to be able to set a little bit of a boundary and just kind of turn your brain off towards the end of the night. So this way you're not just work, and then sleep. Even if you just turn your brain off, turn on something on TV that is brainless, whatever the case may be, just something where you can kind of wind down a little bit. It's so important. And, I've made this mistake several times in my life in different aspects in everything that I did. You can burn yourself out in anything. Mm-hmm. So it's so key to be able to acknowledge that and just be prepared. You can't go 100 miles an hour in everything, no matter what.
Yeah, man, that's beautifully said, because your body and your mind need rest. You know this. You might actually be probably one of the most jacked freaking marathoners I know, by the way.
Thank you, buddy.
No way you rode a marathon.
I ran 4 last year. Actually, 2019.
That's nuts, man. But that's the thing is your body, you know this very well, and everybody on here who does work out regularly, your body needs rest regardless of what you can't work out 7 days a week and then start wondering why you're not getting big, because your body has no recovery. Your muscles repair, they need the recovery. Well, just like that, and to your point, your mind has to do that. So you have to engage that pine, right? You have to engage good sleep so that your mind actually has the system to recover. If you're not allowing it to have that engagement, to have good REM cycle sleep, your mind actually never recovers, and that triggers burnout, like you were saying. So
yeah, I love that. And just to touch on that real quick, because one of the guys that I would model for certain situations in life is the visionary Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I remember reading in the bodybuilding book, encyclopedia that he did years ago when he was the top bodybuilder in the world, he's like, your body gets used to certain workouts and it'll talk to you like, oh, I remember this workout. And then Arnold would make some sort of joke. Like, he completely switch up his routine. He'd be like, biceps, pecs, you weren't ready for this one. The whole point of it is you have to keep switching things up. Otherwise, your body will build up an immune system. I love that you said that.
Yeah, brother.
Johnny, let me ask you, a badass dude like yourself, who are some people that you model? Who are some people, whether it be fictional or real, who are some of your sources of inspiration that you sharpen the axe to?
Yeah, brother. That's really cool because I'm a huge proponent of multiple different ways of thinking and what I believe a true man should be. So, I'm very much into stoicism. So when I look at it, you look at like Socrates, but you also look at, oh man, Plato, and you look at some of these guys that were really just deep thinkers into life and what it was to even exist, right? But then I love looking at Marcus Aurelius, right? Marcus
Love
Aurelius
him.
is probably one of my favorite because he was a warrior, he was a poet, and he was a philosopher, right? So like he was this amalgamation of this balance of feminine and masculine. He wasn't just the masculine warrior. He was, all of these things. I look at those kinds of men in history. You look at Alexander, Charlemagne, Brian Boru. You look at a lot of these men who balanced strategy with intelligence and intellect and not just brawn, because it was never always about that. You can't force everything and think that it's going to win, right? So for me, it was a lot of those people. And then today, like I see men like the late great Dr. Wayne Dyer, man. I read his books, just beautiful books, and it's all about challenging who we are inside so we can get the best version of ourselves to everybody else, right? That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So I love that. I love Sean Stevenson, who's an amazing person on health, right? He's got a great podcast, but he's all about building the science so we're knowledgeable about it. Like there's so many that I can think of that just help me continue my journey to grow, be more knowledgeable, but then build my own portfolio as a man today and how I show up for everybody, how I show up on this podcast, how I show or on this IG live, how I show up on my podcast, how we engage as friends, right? Like that's what I challenge myself to. And those are some of the people that I named a lot, but those are some of the people that I really truly love remembering and listening to now that help me to kind of position myself in the form of a healthy masculine that I believe should be in this world. But same
Love
question,
that.
man. What about you?
Yeah, so it's such a good question. And in my program, I teach all about like modeling. And I think we discussed this a little bit on the podcast. I'll take bits and pieces of attributes from different people, whether the fictional characters like the James Bonds of the world, or, even like from the show Billions, that guy Bobby Axelrod. I just think he's so cool, calm, and collective, to all the real greats like the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the world. And even like some of the greats that you just mentioned, like Alexander and so forth, and some of the authors. I like to take bits and pieces from everyone. I mean, if you read one of my journals, there's literally a list of hundreds of people, and then like on the other side of the line, it'll have like 3 of their attributes that I absolutely love. This way I can model it on command and grab it. It's such a good question. I love that you challenged me and asked me right back. Also, I want to say this. I've never seen a guy make embracing the feminine energy seem so badass the way you do. I love that. Johnny, we'll end it with this, brother. What's the mantra for you personally for 2021?
Oh man, I don't know that I have a mantra, but I came up with my 2021 word, and that was
Okay.
fierce. And so I guess if I had a mantra based around that word for 2021, it's to attack everything I do with ferocity. So if that
Ooh.
I'm going to learn more, I need to attack my education with ferocity. What did I do today to help my business with ferocity? What did I do today that helped me to build my relationship with my wife with ferocity, right? Like they think of it as such an aggressive word, but when you look at everything with that, it's really an intention. It's a way that we're looking at life to say, how are we going about with the level of intention and vigor that we need to be successful in that, right? Like if we're half-assing it, then it's not fierce. And then that's why you wonder why you have half-assed results. But if you challenge yourself, and that's what I've been doing, challenging myself to attack it with ferocity. If I didn't put 100% in, then I don't deserve 100% out, right? So yeah, ferocity, and then
Ferocity.
that's how I'm.
Yeah.
What about you, man? What's your mantra? What's your word, and then what's your mantra?
Okay. In a word, 2021 is all about the explosion. So in 2020, CLS was born. Obviously, I'm very humbled by the reaction, the way it's taken off. And now 2021 is just about an absolute explosion. The podcast launch, touring the world eventually when it opens up, and just reaching the masses with the message that everyone is capable of revamping their mindset. No one is immune. No one can has to live in shackles forever. You could remove it by altering your perspective. We can all become an absolute fire. I know you know that better than anyone. So in a nutshell, the explosion. Let's let the whole world know about this and just really help people, as cliche as that sounds.
No,
And
man.
I love that you always ask me right back.
I love it because it's honoring your truth, man. If your truth is to be that impactful, if your truth is, that's the kind of word you need to explain the impact you want to make, man. And that's what's own your truth. And you're not like, you're unapologetic about your truth, which is beautiful, brother. And that's one of my favorite things about you.
Yeah, and also for my journal entry going into 2020, before CLS was born or even a thought in my head, my journal entry for the year, coincidence, I think not, was titled The Rise. And so we accomplished that. So now it's all, I know, looking back, that's how you always connect the dots, right? Looking back, it all makes sense. It's all about the explosion. I want to say, brother, I love how intellectual you are. Really, it touches my soul and my heart. I don't think I have to speak for myself. I think the whole audience will agree. Our chemistry is second to none. Should you guys follow Johnny and see what he's up to with this podcast, The Art of Masculinity? Should you see what he's up to? The answer is absolutely. You know, I'm very deliberate with the people that I collaborate with. Johnny's on absolute fire. Johnny, where can the audience find you? Where do you hang out the most?
I appreciate you so much, brother. And likewise, man, the people I spend time with, it's important to me to make sure it's valuable people and people that I can grow with on this journey. So I appreciate you for that, brother. For me, you guys can find me over at johnny.elsasser on IG. It's where I hang out the most. I do have Facebook, which is just The Art of Masculinity as well. And then you guys can find the podcast at The Art of Masculinity. But if you guys want to know anything about everything, johnny.elsasser, you can shoot me a DM. Love to hear from you guys.
Guys, reach out to Johnny. He's very engaging. He's on fire. Johnny, I love you, buddy. Always a pleasure. And I can guarantee you this will absolutely not be the last time we collaborate. I'm going to have my girl reach out to you. We're going to get you on the CLS experience in the next couple of weeks. I love you, buddy. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate you, brother. Love you right back, man. And yeah, we're definitely going to be collaborating this year. I can't wait to do something in person with you. It'll be a lot of fun.
100%.
All
right, my man. Have a good night, Johnny.
You too, brother. Take it easy.
Take care, buddy. It was great. Love that guy. Cyprian, I saw that you had a couple questions. All right, live Q&A. Who's got a question for Craig? Yes, tomorrow. Go Journal. Cam 2.0. Any questions? Who listened to the Dean episode of the CLS Experience today? Yes. I love you all so much. I'm going to ask you one question, and if you get the answer right, someone's getting a special treat, a special gift tonight. Okay? Are you ready? If you listen to the CLS Experience brand new episode today, then you know that Dina ran several marathons. How many did she finish in first place? You might as well throw a number out there and someone's getting a special gift. Drum roll, please. I'm going to count 3-second countdown. 3, 2, 1. No, not 20, Joannica. No, Monica. That would be nice, though. The answer is 3. I love you all so much. Let's end the night with this. Journal, sharpen the axe, get on fire. Write down in your journal a bundle of people that you can model and start utilizing their attributes. Name people that you hold in high regard. People that if you elevated your state to their ability, you'd be on absolute fire. Guys, we're all capable of so much right now. It's 2021. It's almost February already. If you're not living in your vision, there's no reason as to why. We just need to put together a strategy, reverse engineer it, and make it happen. I love every single one of you. Jess 2.0, hello again. All right, guys, get off my Instagram Live and go journal and get on fire. I love you all so much from the bottom of my heart. Always a pleasure. We'll speak soon. Cyprian, I love you, buddy.